What's up guys, so I am back with another video as I said I would today. My last case was on the Hello Kitty murder and that was a fairly short case. I think it was about a 20-minute video. This case is about as triple the length of the other one because I got really into depth with this one. And I was telling my sister earlier I wasn't too sure if I wanted to do this one anymore because it was really disturbing to me and it really got to me, but I decided to do it now because it was the one I put a toll up on my Snapchat, and it was this case was the one that got voted for, and so I have to do what I said I was going to do, and this is a killer clown murder case. So I'm going to put a disclaimer that this will go into really deep detail on how this man murdered very young people, and it does involve a lot of touchy subjects. So if this video is not for you, just click off. Thank you for tuning in anyway. I want to put another disclaimer that I don't mean any disrespect to the victim's family whatsoever. I've just taken information from different articles, websites and other people's videos and compiled it into one video. So with this case, I'm going to start off from the childhood of the murderer. So the killer clown's name was John Gracie. I'm not too sure if I'm saying that right. It's spelled G-A-C-Y, Gracie. He was born on March 17, 1942 in Chicago, Illinois. He was the second child of 3 and the only son born to John Stanley Gracie and Marion Robinson. Now, age 4, Gracie was verbally and physically abused by his alcoholic father. Despite the abuse, Gracie admired his father and constantly sought his approval. In return, his father would hurl insults at him, calling him stupid and act like a girl. So obviously from a very young age, Gracie was abused. Really, his dad really got into his head a lot, but for some reason he still liked his father, still admired him. I guess from what I understand, I think he may have still seen good in his dad or wanted to see good, so that's why he admired him. But when he was 7, he was molested by a family friend repeatedly and never told his parents because he thought his dad was going to blame him. So he thought his dad wasn't going to stick up for him. He thought that his dad would blame him and then punish him severely. And then at age 11, Gracie was hospitalised for several months at a time after experiencing unexplained blackouts. His father decided Gracie was faking the blackouts because the doctors were unable to diagnose what was happening. So at first they didn't know what was happening, what was causing the blackouts. So his father, obviously, I think many people think he just wants attention. It's not real. He's just seeking for it. So obviously this will cause his dad. His dad's already an alcoholic and already very aggressive. So this did not help the situation at all for Gracie. But they, in the end, were able to diagnose Gracie, and he actually had blood clots in the brain, which was causing the blackouts. And he was treated for it. Sorry, got distracted there. I'm still hearing things. I'm going cuckoo. But but unfortunately, even after being diagnosed, this didn't stop his father from beating him repeatedly. Now, from what I understand, I believe the dad did not actually need a reason to beat him. It was more of a sport for him. I've read several different articles, and from what I understand, his father just enjoyed it. I'm assuming his dad got some sort of pleasure out of it, because like it just didn't make sense that half the time he didn't even have a reason. Sorry. I've like written a whole essay and I'm reading off my whole essay I've made. But but after years of abuse, Gracie taught himself not to cry, and that was the only thing he continuously ever did and knew would provoke his father's anger. So everything he knew he stopped doing, stopped crying, stopped showing emotion, because he knew if he did, his dad would beat him. But obviously it still didn't stop his dad from doing it. And after years of abuse, he gathered all his belongings and fled to Las Vegas. Obviously anyone in that situation would want to get out as fast as they can. At this point he was becoming an adult. I believe I couldn't find how old he was. This didn't really tell me his age. I'm assuming he was around about 18, 19, 20, around about that age range. But when he went to Las Vegas, he soon married a woman called Marilyn in September of 1964 in Springfield, Illinois. After they married, they moved to Waterloo, Iowa, where Gracie managed 3 Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants owned by Marilyn's father. The newlyweds moved into Marilyn's apartment rent-free. So when they got there, got married pretty fast. And obviously now he is just got a new job, new wife, and he's, from the look of it, been married into quite a wealthier family. But here's where it gets a little bit disturbing, and for me, from this point onwards, became a little bit uncomfortable to carry on researching. It is really disturbing, but Gracie grew a need to be sexually involved with young teenage boys. At first he didn't act upon the urges, but he used the management position he had as a way or an opportunity to get young teens who worked in these chicken restaurants so that he could molest or get sexual gratification from. So he used his job, something that his wife and her family trusted him with, he used it as a way to get the sexual gratification he needed. Gracie then was able to turn his basement into a hangout area to lure teenage men so he could pursue his needs to have sexual relations with them. Now this was even more disturbing, that he would go through the trouble of making his basement and turning it into this place where he would lure them in and take advantage of them at their weak moments. Now, he would give them alcohol and free pornography, and once the boys were overly intoxicated, he would then take sexual advantage over them. While Gracie was molesting these young men in his basement, doing drugs, his wife was having his children. One boy born in 1967 and another girl later on the following year. Gracie described this time of his life almost perfect, as in this time he actually had his father's approval. Now obviously his father and that did not know about him molesting these kids. All he knew is that his son had children. His wife didn't know about this at all. She didn't know that he was doing any of this, but he had children and he was molesting children, so that's even more disturbing and just adds on to the whole thing of how he could even, like, what was going on in his head to do this. To me it's bizarre. But Gracie's ego was huge. He thought that his social connections and that because his pay was above average, he thought he was untouchable or uncatchable, as if he was never going to be caught for what he'd done and he was just going to get away with this and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it for the rest of his life till he dies, which everyone knows that never actually happens. No one gets away with everything for the rest of their life. Yes, there are people that have gotten away with things, but that's because they're very smart. They've outsmarted people. But the young teens who weren't interested in hookers, pornography, the alcohol, started to distance themselves from Gracie, and in 1968 Gracie's perfect life would come crashing down. In 1967, Gracie hired a 15-year-old Donald Voorhees. I'm not too sure if I pronounced that last name wrong. It's Voorhees. Voorhees. I'm not entirely sure if I'm pronouncing that right. He hired him to do odd jobs around the house, and after Donald had finished his jobs, Gracie would lure Donald into his basement with the promise I'm hearing it again. Oh my heart. And it's almost 3 AM again, the exact same time as yesterday. I'm hearing these noises again. But he would lure Donald into his basement with the promise of porn videos and beer. Once Donald was highly intoxicated, Gracie would force Donald to give oral sex over the next why does it look like the light is dimming? But yeah, over the next couple months, Gracie would sexually assault many other young teen boys. He was able to convince some of these teen boys that he was doing a scientific program, and that for each session that these boys done, they would get £50. He would also use blackmail as a way to force them into sexual submission. March 1968, it all came crashing down on Gracie. Voorhees told his father about the incident with Gracie. It's Gacy, not Gracie. Gacy. In his basement, who immediately reported it to the police. Another 16-year-old victim also reported Gacy to the police. Gacy was arrested and charged with oral sexual assault of a 15-year-old and attempted assault of another boy. Now, to me, I feel like with the whole sexual assault and everything, I think his house should have been searched for all the evidence, but from what I understand with this case, it wasn't searched and nothing else was found further, and he should have been put away at this point and kept in prison, but unfortunately no. Charges, he strongly denied these charges in an effort to intimidate Voorhees, which was the young man Gacy sexually assaulted. So in a way to intimidate him and keep him away from testifying, Gacy paid an employee, 18-year-old Russell, £300 to beat up the teenager and warn him against showing up to court. So he tried to get another young man to beat this guy up so that he wouldn't come to court and Gacy would get away with this. Now obviously, I don't know what made him think this would work, but clearly this wouldn't have worked. Voorhees went straight to the police, who arrested... My computer doesn't want to work today. They arrested Russell. By the time... Then Russell admitted his guilt and Gacy's involvement to the police. Gacy was charged with conspiracy, assault. By the time it was over, Gacy pled guilty to sexual assault and received a 10-year sentence. Now, my opinion, when you sexually assault someone, you deserve more than 10 years because that changes someone's life when you do that. So, unfortunately, he only got 10 years. And on December 27th, 1969, Gacy's father died of failure of the liver. The news hit Gacy hard, and despite his obvious poor emotional state, the officials denied his request to attend his father's funeral, which in my opinion, he didn't deserve to go to his father's funeral at all for what he'd done. He shouldn't be allowed out for anything. Maybe I sound cold-hearted, maybe I sound too harsh, but in my opinion, you don't do something horrible and expect sympathy from people, because you never will get away with it. You'll never get anyone's sympathy. But Gacy did everything right in prison. He earned his high school degree and took his position as head cook seriously. His good behaviour paid off in October 1971. After completing just 2 years of his sentence, he was released and placed on probation for 12 months, which yet again I disagree with. They shouldn't have done that. The biggest mistake of their life. I don't understand how good behaviour could fix what he'd done or even be enough to allow him to leave. I feel like that is the most unfair thing they could have done to society in that time, but unfortunately whoever decided it, whatever happened, whatever he did within those 12 months is on them. Anyone dies, blood's on their hand, they let them go, unfortunately. But Marilyn filed for a divorce while Gacy was in prison, which is completely understandable. I did read a lot of comments and videos. People agreed with this woman's decision to leave, because obviously she saw what was wrong. Clearly he was a pedophile, or is a pedophile. Gacy was so angered by the divorce that he told her that she and the 2 children were dead to him, vowing never to see them again. Marilyn no doubt hoped that he would stick to his word. And my phone just came up with notifications, sorry. Gacy later bought a home 30 miles outside of Chicago in Des Plaines, Illinois. Not sure if I actually pronounced that right. Gacy and his mother lived in the house, which was a part of Gacy's probation. In early 1971, Gacy lured a teenage boy to his house and tried to rape him, but the boy escaped and went to the police. Gacy was charged with sexual assault, but the charges were dismissed when the teen did not show up to court. The word of his arrest never got back to his parole officer. On January 2nd, 1972, Timothy Jack McCoy, aged 16, was planning on sleeping at the bus terminal in Chicago. His next bus wasn't scheduled until the following day, but Gacy approached him and offered him a tour of the city, plus let him sleep in his house. McCoy took him up on the offer. According to Gacy's account, he woke up the following morning, saw McCoy standing with a knife at his bedroom door. Gacy thought the teen intended on killing him, so he charged at the boy, got control of the knife. Gacy then stabbed the teen to death, which to me makes no sense whatsoever, because if he was intending to kill him, he wouldn't just stand there. He would have tried to kill him, but it just didn't make, none of this made sense to me. Afterwards, he realised that he had mistaken McCoy's intentions. The teen had the knife because he was preparing breakfast and had gone to Gacy's room to wake him up. So, how can you mistaken that? To me, it just there's no sense behind it. Although Gacy had not planned to kill McCoy, when he brought him home, he couldn't dismiss the fact that he had become sexually aroused to the point of orgasm during the killing. In fact, the killing was the most intense sexual pleasure he had ever felt. Gacy then took the dead body and buried it in a crawl space under his house, which yet again is so disturbing. It makes me sick. I actually think I'm going to space this over 2 videos because I have written it all down. It's 5 pages worth of information and I've only got through 3. So I will see you guys in the next video, I guess. I film that tomorrow because it is nearly 3 AM and I really should be getting to bed, and this case is so long. So you guys know from this video the basic background of him and the start of his journey to be, well, a sick man, someone who doesn't deserve to be in society, someone who is mentally ill, as we can see. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I will be getting into more of his murders and the reason why they call him the Killer Clown. So yeah, I will see you all then.